The station floated in the dark silence between stars, a lonely structure named Aurelius 7. It was once a proud science outpost orbiting a frozen exoplanet. Built by humans to study the planet's strange weather and energy fields, now only one human remained inside. Lieutenant Evan Mercer was the last crew member awake. The others had been evacuated months ago after the planet's magnetic storms damaged the communication array. Evan had volunteered to stay back, maintaining the power systems until a rescue ship could arrive, but that rescue never came. Outside the thick glass window, the planet below glowed faintly blue, like an endless ocean of ice. Its atmosphere shimmered with auroras that looked almost alive. At night, when the station passed through the planet's shadow, everything turned black, except for the cold. Evan could feel it pressing against the hull as if the frost itself wanted in. He told himself it was only his mind playing tricks. Isolation, fatigue, and the endless quiet could do that. Then the whispering began. It started faint, just a soft voice near his ear when he was half asleep. "It's cold. It's so cold, ... Evan had jolted awake the first time, scanning the room. No one was there. His breath hung in the air, white mist floating before him. The temperature had dropped below regulation. The sensors showed nothing unusual. He checked every vent, every maintenance panel. All clear. That night the whisper came again, closer this time. "You left me in the storm." The voice was soft, female, fragile. Evan tried to stay calm. "Computer," he said, "run full system scan. Check for unauthorized transmissions." The computer responded in its calm tone. No transmissions detected. He rubbed his temples. Maybe he was losing it. He had been alone for 178 days now, but the voice kept coming back. Every night at exactly 2:14 station time, always whispering about the cold. During the day, Evan kept himself busy checking the reactor levels and repairing damaged panels. The storm on the planet's surface seemed to grow worse each week. Strange magnetic waves pulsed through the ice, creating radio interference that made the static hum through the station's speakers. One afternoon, while reviewing old log files, Evan noticed something strange. The name Dr. Marin Lyra appeared repeatedly in the early mission data, someone he didn't remember meeting. Curious, he opened her personnel file. She was one of the station's first scientists, a xenobiologist specializing in cryogenic organisms. Her photo showed a woman with pale eyes and dark hair tied back in a neat braid. The record said she died during a surface expedition 2 years ago. Cause of death: exposure. Body unrecovered. Evan stared at the file for a long moment, then slowly closed it. That night, the whisper came again. "Evan." "It's me." He froze. "Marin." The temperature dropped again. Frost spread across the inside of the viewport, forming delicate patterns that looked like branches or veins. His breath came faster. "Marin." He whispered silence. "Then you shouldn't have left me there. I wasn't even here when you—" He stopped himself. Why was he talking to a ghost? The whisper came again, this time right beside his ear. "The cold doesn't forget." He turned sharply. Nothing, but the air shimmered slightly, as if heat and frost were fighting for control. The next morning, Evan checked the environmental data again. The thermal readings in his room were fluctuating at the exact minute he heard the whisper. It wasn't random. Something was interacting with the systems. He followed the pattern and found an energy spike originating from the lower maintenance deck, a place that hadn't been entered since the storm hit months ago. Grabbing a flashlight, he descended the metal stairs, each step echoing through the hollow structure. The lights flickered as the power surged and dimmed. The air was colder here, and frost clung to the walls like a thin layer of crystal dust. He reached the old cryolab. The door was half frozen, but he forced it open. Inside were broken tanks, shattered sample jars, and long-dead equipment. But on one of the consoles, a small light was blinking, power still active. Evan brushed away the frost and read the display. Cryosample 47B. Lyra organism. Status: dormant. He frowned. The name Lyra again. He accessed the old logs. The last entry, written by Dr. Marin herself, read, "The organism appears to generate localized temperature fields. When exposed to stress, it emits electromagnetic pulses capable of penetrating station systems, attempting to contain it within cryotank." The entry timestamp was the same date she disappeared. Evan's pulse quickened. What if she hadn't died in the storm? What if something else happened here? Something buried under years of ice and silence. He leaned closer to the console. Suddenly, the lights flickered violently. The screen glitched, and words began typing themselves. "It's cold down here." Evan stumbled back, heart pounding. "Who's there?" No answer, just static. Then faintly, behind him a whisper, "You found me." He turned slowly. The air in front of him shimmered again, forming a faint silhouette, a woman's outline made of mist and frost. Her eyes glowed a soft blue, her expression both sad and calm. "Moraine," he said quietly. The figure tilted her head. "You stayed behind. Why?" "I'm maintaining the power until the rescue comes," he replied. Unsure why he was explaining himself to something that shouldn't exist, her voice echoed softly through the cold air. "The rescue will never come. The cold wants more. It remembers the warmth that built this place. It remembers you." He shook his head. "You're just data fragments, electromagnetic echoes from the storm." But she stepped closer, and the temperature plummeted. The flashlight dimmed. "You think I'm gone?" But the cold doesn't let go. Then, just as suddenly as she appeared, the figure vanished. Evan stumbled back to the control room, breathing hard. His instruments flickered with more interference than ever. It was as if something had woken up deep below the planet's surface. He opened a cum log, recording his findings. "Lieutenant Mercer, Aurelia 7, report. I've encountered what appears to be a residual energy manifestation linked to Dr. Marin Lyra's research. Possible non-biological consciousness interacting with the station systems. Requesting immediate contact with Earth Command if anyone's still listening." He hit send. But the signal only echoed back, static. Hours later, as he sat staring at the frozen planet below, the whisper came again. "Evan." He didn't turn this time. "I know you're there," he said quietly. "What do you want from me?" "To be warm again." The lights dimmed, and the frost on the window began forming words, delicate lines of ice spelling out a message. "Come to me." Evan stared, the message slowly fading back into frost. Outside, the auroras flared brighter than ever, like eyes opening across the sky, and deep beneath the ice, something vast began to move. The next morning, Lieutenant Evan Mercer woke to silence. Not the usual silence of space, but something deeper. The hum of the life support system was slower. The air felt heavy, thick, like the station itself was holding its breath. He rubbed his eyes and checked the main console. Power levels were unstable again, fluctuating in rhythmic pulses, almost like a heartbeat. The readings came from below the surface of the frozen planet, the same coordinates where Dr. Marin Lyra had disappeared. Evan leaned back in his chair. His mind was full of questions. Was the voice truly Marin? Was it some digital ghost left in the data systems? Or something alive down there? He remembered her words from the night before. "Come to me." For the next few hours, Evan studied every piece of data from the cryolab. The energy signals seemed to match the frequency of human brain waves, but magnified thousands of times. The patterns pulsed like thought, emotion, even memory. He also discovered something else. The storm outside wasn't random. Each wave of magnetic interference was syncing with the planet's rotation. And with the mysterious signal beneath the ice, it wasn't nature. It was communication. Evan frowned. "The cold is talking," he muttered. The whisper answered, "It listens too." He spun around. The air shimmered again, and Marin's figure appeared, faint and flickering like static. Her expression was softer now, almost peaceful. "Marin," he said carefully, "what are you?" She looked at him with eyes that glowed faint blue. "I tried to warn them," she whispered. "We dug too deep. The ice isn't dead. It remembers everything it touches." He swallowed hard. "You mean, it's alive?" She nodded slowly. not alive like us. It absorbs energy, thoughts, memories. When I fell into the storm, it reached into my mind. I became part of it. Evan stared. You're telling me the planet itself thinks it dreams, she said. It dreams of warmth, of motion. The cold is its hunger. It spreads through machines, through voices, through those who listen.
Nice.
He shook his head. Then why talk to me? Her form flickered. Because you stayed. You can help it. Or you can stop it. But either way, it's waking up. Evan felt a chill run through him. If what she said was true, then the planet wasn't just freezing, it was feeding. And the station, still connected to its systems, might be the key that lets it reach beyond. He ran to the reactor console. The fusion core's temperature was dropping. Power drains were happening in a perfect rhythm, like something was breathing through the circuits. Maren was pulling energy from the station. It wants to grow, she said quietly. It wants to remember what it felt like to be alive. Now then it'll kill everything else in the process. She looked away. I know. Evan started typing commands to cut power to the lower decks. But every time he tried, the system refused access. The override codes changed by themselves. Computer, he said, lock out all external transmissions. Calm AI voice replied, unable to comply. Transmission in progress. What transmission? The main screen flickered, and a new signal appeared, broadcasting into deep space. A strange, repeating pattern that looked like sound converted into light. He realized with dread what was happening. The planet was sending a message. Hours passed as Evan tried everything to stop it. He shut down auxiliary systems, redirected power manually, even disconnected the reactor's main line. But every time the station found another route to keep the signal going, it was using him, his own commands, his own systems. At one point, he heard Maren's voice again, softer than before. Evan, you can't stop it like this. The ice doesn't need wires. It remembers every spark. It's inside everything now. He clenched his fists. Then tell me how to stop it. You can't destroy memory, she said. But you can choose what it remembers. He didn't understand at first. Then slowly, an idea began forming. The cold was using energy to carry thought, data patterns. If he could rewrite that pattern, maybe he could confuse it or contain it. It was dangerous. If he failed, the entire reactor could melt down. But if he did nothing, the cold would spread across the communication network and reach every outpost in range. Evan went to the engineering bay, where old backup drives were still stored. He found one labeled Human Archive Cultural Memory. It contained music, art, and history, everything about humanity that the early colonists had brought with them. He smiled faintly. If the cold wants to remember, let's give it something to remember. He connected the archive drive directly to the communication uplink. The system protested with warnings. Warning, reactor energy flow unstable. He ignored them and began uploading. The files streamed across the network, millions of human memories, songs, poems, laughter, and stories flooding into the signal. For a moment, the lights dimmed completely. Then the whispering returned, not cold this time, but confused. What? Is this? It's us, Evan said quietly. It's humanity. The station trembled as waves of light rippled across the ice below. The auroras outside flared brighter than ever, shifting colors, red, gold, green. Like sunlight through clouds, Maren appeared again, her image flickering wildly. You're changing it, she whispered. Evan nodded. If the planet wants warmth, it can have our warmth, our memories, our life. Her face softened into something like a smile. That's beautiful, the console beeped. Reactor stability dropped below 10%. The core was overheating. Maren, I can't hold it much longer. You have to cut the link, she said, before it burns everything. Evan slammed the emergency control. The station shook violently as the connection broke. The main lights went out, and the only glow came from the blue ice outside. Minutes passed in darkness. Evan could hear his own heartbeat, steady and loud. Then, slowly, The lights returned. The readings on his console showed the signal had stopped. The planet's magnetic field had gone quiet for the first time in months. He let out a long breath. It worked. But then he noticed something strange. The air around him wasn't cold anymore. It was warm, gently warm, like a spring breeze. He turned toward the viewport. The ice on the planet below was glowing faintly gold. The auroras had changed color, moving slowly, gracefully, as if breathing. And then, faintly, a whisper filled the room again. But this time it wasn't sorrowful. It was calm. "Thank you." Evan froze. "Marin?" Her voice was soft. "It remembers now. It remembers life. You gave it peace." Her form appeared one last time, clear now, human, smiling. "Goodbye, Evan." Then she faded into the light. For a long while, Evan sat in silence. The planet had calmed, the cold had lifted, and the station was no longer draining energy. He checked the external sensors. Deep beneath the ice, where the strange energy had once pulsed, there was now warmth spreading outward like a heartbeat. He didn't know if it was truly alive, but he hoped that somewhere within that frozen world, Marin's memory lived on, not as a ghost, but as part of something reborn. That night, as he lay in his bunk, he heard the whisper again, only this time, it wasn't frightening. "Sleep, Evan. The cold won't let me. But it will never take you." He smiled faintly. "Good night, Marin." The stars outside shimmered brighter than ever. And for the first time in months, Evan closed his eyes without fear. Far below, the planet glowed softly, no longer a world of cold silence, but one carrying the memory of warmth. Months had passed since Lieutenant Evan. Mercer had confronted the whispering cold of Aurelius 7. The station was quiet now. Power levels were stable, and the auroras outside the ice world pulsed gently, as if the planet itself were breathing slowly. Evan had adjusted to a new rhythm of life. He repaired what he could, monitored the planet below, and recorded logs of the events that had changed him forever. Yet every night he still felt the faint presence of Marin Lyra, not haunting, but protective. He often wondered if the planet itself had learned to remember her, as she had said. And somehow, in the months since the event, he could feel warmth radiating through the station. Not just heat, an energy of life, of memory, lingering quietly. Then one day the comms console blinked. Evan froze. It hadn't been active in weeks, not since the cold had ceased its pull. A faint signal blinked on the screen. "Rescue? Is that—" he whispered, rushing over. The signal stabilized, revealing a fleet of ships on the edge of the system. The message was clear. "Aurelius 7. We are en route. Status report required." Evan's hands shook as he typed back a response. He summarized everything: the storm, the cold, Marin, the whispering energy, and the human archive upload that had calmed the planet minutes later. The fleet acknowledged receipt and estimated arrival in 2 standard days. Evan exhaled slowly. For the first time, he felt hope that he wouldn't be alone again, but even as hope filled the station, the planet below stirred in ways he hadn't anticipated. The next morning, Evan monitored the surface. The ice glowed faintly gold again, but this time there were irregularities in the auroras. Tiny shapes seemed to shift beneath the ice, long, thin forms moving like currents. He frowned. Could the upload of human memory have awakened more than Marin's presence? A chime rang from the main console, drawing him back. "Evan, you need to see this," whispered the voice, soft but steady. He froze. Marin. She hadn't spoken for months. The planet. It is learning faster. It recognizes life differently now. It understands curiosity and creation. But others arriving, they might not understand. Evan's mind raced. If the fleet arrived unprepared, human instinct to conquer or study could trigger disaster. He had to find a way to ensure peace for them and for the living ice below. By midday, the fleet's ships appeared in orbit. Giant silver holes reflected the auroras, their engines glowing faint blue. Evan activated the docking guidance system, letting them approach. but he hesitated to communicate directly. He wasn't sure they would understand what had happened. The cold, the whisper, or Marin's energy. He decided to meet them personally when the lead ship's transport beam connected. He donned his suit and stepped onto the airlock platform. Feeling the familiar chill from the external vacuum, the first officer of the rescue ship, Commander Ria Volkov, greeted him with surprise and relief. "Lieutenant Mercer," she said, voice formal but warm. "We didn't expect anyone to survive this long." "I've survived," Evan said slowly, "but the planet, it's alive. You have to see it for yourselves." Volkov frowned. "Alive." "Evan, we're trained for extreme conditions, but alive." Evan gestured to the viewport. "Not alive like us?" "It remembers. It reacts. It communicates. Through energy." The crew looked at him skeptically, but curiosity burned in their eyes. The next hours were tense. Evan guided the rescue team through the station, showing them the cryolab, the reactor, and the main console where the archive drive had been uploaded. "Everything's stable now," he explained. "The planet isn't attacking. It's absorbing life differently. It's learning from us." One of the scientists laughed nervously. "You're saying this ice planet is sentient?" Evan nodded. "Yes, but in a way we can't fully understand. It remembers Marin Lyra, and through her, it learned patience and caution. But you must respect it. Any aggressive move could provoke it," Volkov sighed. "We'll proceed carefully. But we need to take readings and ensure the station's safety." Later, as they worked, the whisper returned. "Evan, they are curious. Guide them." He nodded silently. For months, he had felt isolated with Marin, but now he realized her presence wasn't gone. She had become the bridge between humanity and the cold planet. "Do not let fear guide their hands," she added. "Show them warmth, curiosity, and creation, not dominance." Evan guided the scientists to deploy non-invasive scanners on the ice below. They transmitted pulses and signals designed to learn rather than extract. The ice responded slowly, gently, reshaping its auroras in patterns that matched the scans. The dialogue forming. The crew gasped at the beauty of the interaction. Gold and green lights moved like living brushstrokes, pulsing in response to the scientists' questions. One scientist whispered, "It's like it's alive, but also aware of us." Evan smiled faintly. And now it knows we mean no harm." By the next day, the fleet's engineers had adjusted their sensors to communicate with the planet in safe ways. Data flowed from the ice to their consoles, raw energy patterns translated into shapes and signals, a language built from motion and memory. Evan observed quietly, feeling the familiar warmth in the station. The planet below was no longer a frozen enemy, but a partner, alive, intelligent, and learning alongside humans. From the shadows of the station, Marin's image appeared faintly. She looked serene, radiant, no longer flickering. "Thank you, Evan. You've done more than survive. You've built trust." He nodded, not speaking. Somehow words felt unnecessary. The planet itself seemed to understand. That night, the auroras danced in golden waves across the ice, brighter than ever before. Evan stood at the viewport, watching as the shapes beneath the ice moved gracefully, forms that suggested memory, energy, and life combined. "Evan." The whisper was soft, warm. "The cold won't take you. Not anymore. You've shown it humanity's heart," Evan exhaled. Finally feeling free from the tension that had held him for months, the rescue fleet prepared to leave. Satisfied that the station and the planet were stable, Commander Volkov personally shook his hand. "Lieutenant, your reports will be historic," she said. "You've survived what no one else could. Humanity owes you." Evan smiled faintly. "We didn't survive alone. Something else survived with us. And it's alive now because of what we shared." Volkov raised an eyebrow. "Alive? Like a partner?" "Exactly," Evan said. "And one we must respect." As the ships departed, the station remained in quiet orbit. Evan returned to his quarters and sat by the viewport, staring down at the shimmering ice. He could feel the faint presence of Marin beside him, no longer whispering, but simply there. A memory made real, a life preserved in the cold. He realized something profound. Humans were remarkable, not because of weapons, technology, or conquest, but because of empathy, understanding, and the courage to act with wisdom. Below him, the ice glowed gently, alive and patient. It remembered Marin, it remembered humanity, and it would remember the warmth of life for eons to come. Evan leaned back and smiled. For the first time in months, he truly slept. Knowing he had not only survived the cold, but had transformed it, a frozen world that now dreamed with human memories, waiting quietly for the future.